Howdy everyone, SOB here, and today I want to talk about nanny runs. Nanny runs are something some of you may have heard of, but I know there's a lot of people out there that don't quite understand what exactly they are. So, nanny runs have been a very controversial topic within the DPS community for several years. Nanny runs are actually the cause of the DPS channel split a few years ago, and why some of the numbered admins broke off and made the medals channels. Nanny runs, in the simplest of explanations, are runs in which a team is fully set up to buff a single player's DPS up to numbers that would otherwise be impossible for them to get in any normal run. The most common method of nannying is the Recluse 3-2 split. There are other methods, but this is the most popular, so it's what I'm going to focus on in this video. The key factor for a 3-2 split is to have two very high DPS builds go to the left side. The job of those two on the left is to kill everything as fast as possible, just waste all of their buffs, nuking that side down. You want it dead in seconds, basically. Then they're going to go to the center and hit the tack cube. The other three people are going to go to the right side. You're going to have the person going for the record, and you're going to have two science recluses with elite Tholian Meshweaver pets. And what they're going to do, those two recluses, is they are going to keep that person going for the record alive. They are going to crowd control all of the spheres, and they are going to debuff everything to absurd amounts. You see, what makes the recluses so special for this is they have pets that have Fire, Will, and Attack Pattern Beta 3. So when the stars align, you have these pets putting out absurd amounts of debuffs on everything in the area. So we'll see in some of the video I'm going to commentate over later in this video, but there are some runs that I recorded from back when I was doing my nanny runs last October in 2016. And there would be 5-7 stacks of attack pattern beta on a target, and whatever you're shooting at that point, you're doing like 200 to 300% more damage than you normally would because of how high that debuff on them is. So that's very potent and a large reason why these runs can go so well. Now, the two science recluses in an ideal run, you're usually going to have one that is Gravwelling the right transformer. The point of this is to pull all the spheres down into the transformer and just have an easy way to kill them. And the other one is going to be Gravwelling either the tack cube or the gate. Usually it's going to be the gate with a very high amount of control X so that they can pull all of the spheres that come in after you're killing the generators or transformers. It can pull them up to the gateway or to the tack cube if you choose. So then, after the right side has been cleared, which is going to happen really fast, as you'll see later on in the videos I commentate over, everything just dies, but in the center, with all of those spheres that are Gravwelled, that is where a big chunk of the DPS comes from. They are going to be heavily debuffed in addition to the betas that are stacked on them. The sides are going to use their sensor scan, which is another really potent debuff. There's so much debuff going on that you're not getting a complete scaling like debuff. It starts to have diminishing returns because there's so much. But you're going to have the person going for the record use AoE abilities like the Refracting Tetryon Cascade, the Delphic Tear Console, the Anti-Time Entanglement Singularity, Subspace Vortex, Nukara Webbreaker devices from the Nukara reputation, things like that to just do as much damage to that big group of HP there from all the spheres that's on the gate or the tack cube. And ideally, they're just going to nuke everything there and the run's going to be over because those two people that were doing high DPS on the left are going to be hitting the tack cube and just the tack cube as much as possible. And as you'll see in the videos later on, right after this, those run times are right around a minute, so it gets pretty crazy, and the amount of damage potential there is just absurd. So I'll reiterate this at the end of the commentary, most likely, but this is why you shouldn't base a player's you shouldn't take the high end of the ISA table at face value. A lot of the runs, especially over 200k right now, are nanny runs, and they're runs where if you were to go into a pug run and that person was in there, they're not going to be doing those numbers. That's the issue with this. It gives a false impression of what is possible to people, and it's why I hate that the ISA. That's the first thing people see is those nanny runs there. It's annoying. We tried to filter it out years ago, but other forms of nannying came out that we couldn't detect with the parser, and yeah, a bunch of fun stuff. So I'm going to swap over to the commentary now, and I hope you guys enjoy. Okay, for this portion of the video, I'm going to be doing a bit of a live commentary on a video of a nanny run that I did with SOB earlier this year before Season 13. And this was my 460k-ish run. So in this run, I had Lily, which was Darth Proteus, and Ted, which is Smoketh. They were the two recluses that went right with me and were debuffing and doing the crowd control, all of that stuff. On the left side were Porch Song and John Numbers. Those two are some fellow DPS admins, so they do lots and lots of DPS. So let's get started here. Whenever it actually starts. Okay, so I'm going in at the start, just getting basic things. This was a different meta, so just ignore me than the build I'm running. Going over to the right side with the two recluses. You see them positioning? I don't think we grav-welled the transformer in this run now because everything died fast anyways. So in this specific run, I think we were moving a bit too fast, so there wasn't a chance for the stuff to get grav-welled in right away, and it looks like they did get grav-welled into the tac cube. And as you can see, the runtime was a minute, so you're just doing everything as fast as possible, and it's just about getting the positioning down. That's one of these runs in action, so let's go back, see if there's anything to highlight. Start is normal, then you just go right. And this was much different. This is when you could have 100% uptime on GDF in these runs. That was so nice. So they're debuffing everything. You can see already here there's 2 stacks of beta on the transformer. Just seconds after I get over there, I've just decloaked. 3 stacks. There's a tackle. There's 4 stacks on the transformer. That's minus 200 resistance. So your shot's out on that transformer there. Scooting back. The reason that debuff is so potent is with a minus 200 debuff, my shots against that thing are basically doing 300% of what they would do normally without that debuff. So that is a huge, huge debuff. Just everything dies. All of this stuff gets debuffed. Sensor scan, betas. You see the betas starting to stack on the gate. Coalition procs back then. Science ultimate also for the debuff. You just see these debuffs stacking, and it just everything dies so fast. Like, let's back that up. I couldn't even see the tac cube because the tac cube died too fast. The tac cube died, 6 coalition procs on it, 5 Psy-ult, it had a tac ult on it, the betas, I think that's the temporal little proc on it from the temporal spectry, that tier 1 thing. And then the Breen thing, I can't remember the name. But you guys get the point, so let's look at another one of these runs. This was the 415k I did with my Science Odyssey, which back then was jokingly named after Trump. Because these runs were recorded in October of last year, I think it was. Of 2016. When does it start? Okay, so going in, doing the same thing as before. Debuffs hitting the transformer. There's also, you see, attack ultimate. You chain your tack ults on the big targets. I think in that run I did with SOB, I hit the wrong thing. But look at that. There were 7 stacks of beta on that. 2 stacks of beta 1 and like 5 beta 3s. Anything's going to die fast with that much debuffing on it. On target the gate. But you just see all of this stuff just melt. It's the debuffing. It's how these runs work. Look at all them debuffs. I don't even have time to hit the attack cube in this run. But look at the debuffs on this. I'm running a disruptor build, obviously, so there's 7 coalition procs. That's 4 attack pattern beta 3s, 2 beta 1s on the gate. So the beta 1s are minus 30 debuff each, there's 60. Then the 4 beta 3s, that's another 200 debuff. And then the 7 coalition disruptor procs is 140 debuff rating. And then you had the Sile back then. So just that's how these runs basically work. It's a massive amount of debuffing with a compressed time, so you can get a really high spike damage. And if we compare this to any normal runs back then, an actual like pug run, these numbers weren't going to happen. It just allows you to get such a crazy high number. Like with this run, it was 415,000 DPS on a Science Odyssey threat tank. So, really, back to the point I was saying before, this is why you shouldn't take ISA numbers at the high end of the table seriously, because especially right now over the 200k mark, you can go in and pop open the parses on SCM and see how many of these runs are nannies. Now, if you compare that to a normal run, the players are not doing anywhere near those numbers. And it gives you a number that is not really representative, which is why I like parsing in Hive Space Elite nowadays, or my solo Foundry map, which I'll get to in another video, because I feel they offer a better way to parse sustained DPS instead of burst like ISA has been for the last how many years. So if you have any questions, just leave them in the comments section down below. Thanks for watching, and sorry for not getting many videos out this last few weeks. It's been pretty busy for me, so I'll see you all around. I have a few videos coming up, so stay tuned.